This is the missing piece as college football insiders have identified the last piece of the Ohio State offense that we need to fix before everything is looking, I guess, perfect, because it's looking pretty darn good so far. We got to break it all down. So what's up, guys? I'm Matt Long. Welcome to Columbus Football 365. If you're an Ohio State football fan, hit that subscribe button. We are churning out videos here, but let's hop into the topic for today. Coming from Scarlet and Game, talking about CBS Sports, who said the Ohio State Buckeyes have one area of concern offensively that could drag down the rest of Brian Hartline's attack, the running back room. Through the first 3 games, true freshman Bo Jackson is a standout. Well, they got part of that right. Well, I guess if something's going to bring down the Ohio State offense, it's not going to be the wide receiver core. Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate make up objectively the number 1 wide receiver core, and cannot forget about Brandon Inniss, a fantastic recruit in his own right, who is being overshadowed by guys that are just all-world college football talent. So it's not going to be the wide receiver room. Julian Sayin, maybe you could put it on him, but right now we're here to talk about the Ohio State running back room led by running back Bo Jackson. If you watched the Ohio game versus Ohio State on Peacock last week, the announcers, Chris Sims, one of Phil Sims' sons, I got them confused. I believe it was Chris Sims. He said Bo Jackson is the number 1 running back that the Ohio State Buckeyes have, and that's absolutely correct. No, he's not a burner. He's not going to be like that Dree Archer type who's going to take it all the way to the crib in a flash. This guy he's a banger. He's going to, hit you hard and expect you to hit him back as well. If we look at the rushing so far on the season for the Ohio State running backs, Bo Jackson leads the room in yards, especially yards per carry, averaging 12.1 yards per carry. That's obviously not going to stand up over a real workload over an actual full game season, or your full whatever game season we have. But CJ Donaldson, the second guy in the room currently in terms of carries, leading the room in carries, only putting up 151 yards. What has to be noted is Bo Jackson didn't get carries against Texas. So CJ Donaldson, James Peoples, their average is going to be lower because they weren't able to just run against Grambling and against Ohio. They played at the time number 1, but still SEC defense. Texas, their defense, we know that's going to be an elite defense by the end of the year. But both of their, Donaldson and Peoples, average yards 4.6, 5.0. Running backs on a team who's played against Grambling State and against Ohio, that number should be a little bit higher. Not saying that, it's not satisfactory what they're doing. It's just Bo Jackson needs to be the focus of this Ohio State offense. When it comes to the running back room, they've been looking for answers ever since. Well, when you send 2 guys to the NFL, both in the second round, and Quinshon Judkins to the Cleveland Browns, and then a couple of picks later, Travion Henderson over to the New England Patriots in the second round as well, it's going to be tough to replace that. And CBS Sports is also talking about the offensive line not looking amazing. We sent Josh Simmons in the first round to the Kansas City Chiefs, a couple of picks before him. Donovan Jackson went to the Minnesota Vikings. Both of those guys, they are, playing in the NFL. You're going to have to run through these guys, but that's what happens when you are one of the top programs. You're going to always be bringing in new, fresh recruits in the offensive line room. And speaking more on Brian Hartline's offense, if you don't know, Brian Hartline is the offensive coordinator for the Ohio State Buckeyes. He was the wide receivers coach, getting a lot of credit, as he should, for the amazing wide receivers coming out of Ohio State over the past couple of years. But going back to our article here from CBS Sports, they wrote, "We didn't learn a lot about the Buckeyes in their 37-9 win over Ohio that we didn't already know. Obviously, the offenses looked better against Grambling and the Bobcats than it did against Texas, but I did have concerns about Ohio State's overall rushing attack. There are big hits, but this team and offensive line have struggled a bit consistently hitting singles, but saying that, we're picking nits. The Buckeyes are off this week and then have a road test against Washington that could provide plenty of insight," Fornelli wrote. Fornelli, the writer for CBS Sports. So they're thinking about, the Big Ten competition that is coming up. Ohio State about, off this week, off this Saturday, and then we will be entering our Big Ten portion of our schedule, the most important portion of the schedule every single season. And why the run game matters extra in a league like the Big Ten is because it's an offensive line league. Every team in the Big Ten, or at least all the top teams, they're great at running the football. Oregon, Indiana, the team up north, and then, of course, the team I'm forgetting, Oregon, who is leading, should probably just read my graphic, leading the Big Ten currently in yards per game. But if we look at all the top teams in rushing, Oregon, USC, Indiana, Washington, and then Ohio State, not even currently in the top 5. That has to improve, and it will improve. Also, part of the reason why Julian Sayin is starting to struggle, or not starting to struggle, but the reason why he hasn't looked amazing right out of the box is the run game isn't doing him enough favors. When you are running the ball more effectively, that allows you to use play action to set up the pass game. When you're able to play fake, the linebackers will come up to the line of scrimmage, and then it's going to be easier for you to throw it over their heads to Jeremiah Smith, to Carnell Tate, to Max Clare, and just get everyone else involved. Although I think it's very interesting the fact that Penn State is even lower than we are in terms of rush yards per carry. A little bit strange seeing how, they have Nick Singleton, they have their 1-2 punch. They got it was my estimation that they were going to have the best running back tandem in college football before the season started. So far, they haven't. Their entire offense really hasn't gotten off to as hot of a start as they thought. But really, I feel like all of college football this year, the offenses, the quarterback play has not been as high level as people were expecting. We were looking at, if you all follow the NFL drafts as closely as I do, you would know that this was supposed to be a really, really good class for quarterbacks. And we were thinking it was going to look like 2024 all over again with a bunch of guys at the top. And then, even more guys down the board who are going to be like turning into really quality prospects. But so far, a ton of the quarterbacks are underachieving. And that is really just clearing the way for a team like Ohio State to come through and go back to back, because Ohio State, Julian Sayin was not a quarterback like Garrett Nussmeier or Drew Aller or Arch Manning, who's getting all the hype before the year started. It was going to have to be on the back of Ohio State's defense, and it was going to be on the back of the wide receivers, who I know wide receiver is dependent on the quarterback, but it's easier to play quarterback when you got great wide receivers, and Ohio State absolutely has that. Now we need the run game to show up as well. Really the final piece of the puzzle, although CBS Sports is saying it's the final piece of the puzzle, and it is the next step, but the final piece of the puzzle, what is going to set the ceiling for this Ohio State team, make zero mistake, is going to be how much is Julian Sayin able to develop over the course of the season. It's important that we don't rush him, and that's why I said it before. I love the schedule of Ohio State. I think it's a great idea to come out with a top test like Texas. Can't take on a tougher challenge than the number 1 ranked team in the country. And then that game, Julian Sayin, we kept it really, really easy for him. We said, don't do too much, put up 2 touchdowns, and we're going to go win the game for you. That's exactly what happened. I love how, I know Ray Lewis used to tell the Baltimore Ravens offense, score 10 points and then we'll go win the game. And 10 points would have been enough against Texas on that afternoon. The defense are flying around like absolute crazy people. But when it comes to Julian Sayin's development, that is going to be slower. And it will take longer than it's going to take just to improve the running game. The number one thing that has to happen with the running game is going to be solving who the heck is going to be the number 1 featured running back. And that's definitely, in my estimation and a lot of people's estimations, when you are reading online and paying attention to the media, Bo Jackson does seem to be the most popular name. And I think that there's a really good reason. The most physical back, Ohio State's talking about, or CBS Sports is talking about only hitting singles. But I mean, if you're busting off, we're averaging 5.6 yards per carry. If you get 5.6 yards per play, you only need 10 yards to get a first down. You will win every single football game if you get 5.6 yards on every single play. I know it's not that simple, but hey, just keep being physical. This offensive line is going to continue to develop. Losing 2 important pieces. I mean, I guess Josh Simmons didn't play last year, but losing pieces to the NFL, it's never going to be a perfectly seamless transition. You just got to hope that you can minimize the impact of the loss as much as you can. And Ohio State, I really think the O-line issues are a little bit overblown. This team is going to be just fine, although this matchup versus Washington is not a matchup that can be overlooked. It's not something that can be overstated. Got to go 1-0 each and every week. The goal for Ohio State is to win the Big Ten. You can't win the Big Ten on, is it September 27th? I believe September 27th is the date for that game. You can't win the entire Big Ten on that one day. Just focus on going 1-0. Focus on taking out that dual threat quarterback who I talked about yesterday and work it out just one game at a time. Let's just get it done. That's what I got for this video. If you stuck around this long, thank you for watching the video. Hit that like button if you haven't already. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel, and go Buckeyes.